do it, particularly your banking sites. I know that Apple will ask you to create a passkey every 5 minutes. Gmail, that sort of thing. Go ahead and protect the things that you get to every single day with a passkey. And then, things that you don't sign into as often, put those to the side. And also, by the way, if you just use the password manager, it will just make all of these passwords for you and fill them in for you. So not like you're having to completely overhaul your life. It's not like a big process. It's just, take a few minutes and let the password manager do its work. Kim, maybe I will get rid of my notebook. Maybe I will not. Only time will tell. Do whatever you need to do. It's better than using the same password everywhere. Kim, thank you so much. Thank you. Kim T is a senior security writer for PC Mag.
Thank you for listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from your part-time controller, specializing in nonprofit accounting and committed to supporting nonprofits with financial management services such as budgeting and forecasting. yptc.com/NPR. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. RWJF is a national philanthropy working toward a future where health is no longer a privilege, but a right. Learn more at rwjf.org. And the Kaufman Foundation, providing access to opportunities that help people achieve financial stability, upward mobility, and economic prosperity, regardless of race, gender, or geography. Kaufman.org.
It's WNYC. Good evening to you. Coming up on 93.9 FM and AM 820 is On Point. The Moth Radio Hour is at 9 o'clock. On the show tonight, stories about truth, family secrets, trapped questions, and a confession 60 years in the making. It's The Moth that starts at 9 o'clock tonight at WNYC, followed by Q at 10 p.m. tonight. And we have some special programming tomorrow at 9 p.m. President Trump isn't backing down from his desire to take control of Greenland. It's the territory for sale. Don't miss World Questions Greenland from the BBC World Service. That's
powering experience problem and even reduce what you owe by WSPA.com.
The temperature actually went up for the evening here. It's going to settle back down into the low 30s.
17 next 337.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Ritchie. President Trump is making news as he speaks before world leaders at... From the financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is WBR New York. Bloomberg 1130. Coming up, the latest market-moving headlines from Bloomberg. First, an update from our partners at CBS News.
It's CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper. After meeting with the head of NATO, President Trump says he has...
What's in that bag, right?
The president's disclosure coming just a couple of hours...
See that bag there?
At the Davos Economic Conference in Switzerland. He has also...
Hey, middle finger, you know what's in that bag?
Report.
Several top European leaders.
Look at that bag.
Skepticism that the president will back out from tariffs. One German official quoted as saying, "We cannot sit back, relax, and be satisfied." So they're talking about using
you know what's in that bag?
Tariffs against goods and services sold in the United States. All of that would mean higher prices.
You know what's in that bag.
Is expanding to Maine. CBS's Camilo Montoya Galvez has details.
I am told by a U.S. official that many of the people that ICE intends to target are Somali immigrants. That population has been a frequent target of the president, who often describes members of that community in derogatory terms. That community is also
what's in that bag.
In Minnesota, they have been implicated in those fraud allegations that have been cited by the president.
It's right there on the left side too, where it's nice and thick. Oh yeah, look at that on the right side. You see that there on the right side where it's nice and thick?
Federal Reserve Board before her tenure is up, without showing cause in the failure of the performance of her duties while on the board, and without any administrative hearing or even a visit to the White House where the facts against her would be presented.
Preparation for Texas over to the Carolinas, up to the Northeast.
It's in the bag.
Oklahoma.
Getting wood.
Best be prepared now so that when the weather hits, you don't have to come do it when it's so cold.
It's in the bag.
The House Oversight Committee approves
It's all in the bag. All the mess is in the bag.
In contempt of Congress. On Capitol Hill.
Comer believes they have information that
We got to keep certain people employed. We got to keep the garbage men employed. They got to have a job. They got to have a job. You know what their job is? To clean up my mess.
Brooklyn and Staten Island areas and ordering a redrawing due to unconstitutional vote dilution of Hispanic residents. The CBS News. Follow and listen to CBS Mornings on the go.
And you know whose fault it is? It's your fault. It's your fault. Oh, yeah, go get food. Go get some food. Go get some food. Oh, yeah. You ready, Hucka? It's your fault. It's your fault.
That could have been 117%.
Go get some food. Go get some food. Oh, yeah.
15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-932-5858. That's 800-932-5858. 800-932-5858.
A Miami Beach nightclub has fired 3 employees for playing the rap song Heil Hitler. More for CBS's Michael Wallace.
The song by Ye, formerly Kanye West, was played at the Club Vendome during a gathering of far-right influencers, including Andrew Tate and young white nationalist Nick Fuentes.
It's sickening.
Joshua Sales with the Greater Miami Jewish Federation has invited the club's employees on a tour of the Holocaust Memorial just down the street.
They need to know where those words came from, what they mean to the Jewish community.
The club says it has a zero-tolerance policy towards anti-Semitism and has permanently banned the guests involved. Michael Wallace, CBS.
Nathan's Famous, which began as a 5-cent hot dog stand on Coney Island more than a century ago, has been sold to packaged meat giant Smithfield Foods in a $450 million all-cash deal. The transaction is expected to close in the first half of this year. Smithfield jumped nearly 9% higher shortly after the news to $100.81 a share. Jennifer Kuiper, CBS News. Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World's headquarters in New York, I'm Doug Krisner. Let's update top stories and market activity. We had a rally in U.S. equities today after President Trump reached a framework on the future deal regarding Greenland and the entire Arctic region. And as a result, the president will refrain from imposing tariffs on goods from those European nations opposed to his efforts to take over Greenland. Here is Bloomberg's Laura Davison.
What we can anticipate here is that two sides are talking. They are at least making positive sounds at each other, but have they really spelled out what this looks like? Have the lawyers on both sides started looking at this? Absolutely not. They're still in that early stages. But this did give Trump enough space to back off from those tariffs, back off from
Look at this. It's a Raymond
market reaction from this.
Raymond soup. Raymond and hibachi soup. You see that? Raymond.
Something, and I think Mark Rutte and NATO have kind of figured out how to handle Trump in these situations.
Bloomberg's Laura Davison.
You see the Raymond and hibachi soup?
Reporting tonight that discussions on this framework included a compromise.
There's an actual Raymond restaurant. There's a restaurant that makes that Raymond.
Construction of military bases. In the equity market today, small caps outperformed. We have the Russell 2000 jumping 2%. The S&P, NASDAQ, compound industrial average, each higher by roughly 1.2%. South Korea's economy shrank in the final quarter of last year due to a broad pullback in demand. Quarter-on-quarter GDP was negative 0.3%. We're seeing a steady Korean won right now against the dollar, but a rally right now in South Korean equities, which could be up about 1.5%. 5%. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has been meeting with top investors in the Middle East to line up funding for a new round of investment. We are told the company is looking to raise about $50 billion or more. That would give OpenAI a valuation of about $750 billion to $830 billion. We check markets for you throughout the day here on Bloomberg. In Tokyo, the Nikkei up 1.1%. In Sydney, the ASX 200 higher by 0.6%. Global news, 24 hours a day. This is Bloomberg.
Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Story, shower possible this evening, otherwise skies be mostly cloudy tonight. Will start to clear out late at night. Temperatures drop to the lower to middle 30s. Partly sunny, breezy, a little milder Thursday, high 40 to 45. Partly cloudy Thursday night, low in the middle to upper 20s. Partly sunny, breezy, cooler Friday, high in the lower to middle 30s. I'm Scott Kaplan with your 3-day forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Podcast Spotlight Hour on Bloomberg Radio.
You're listening to the Big Take Asia podcast on Bloomberg Radio. I'm Wan Ha. Today in the show, we're talking about Japan's dementia dilemma. A growing share of the country's financial assets are controlled by the elderly, many at risk of cognitive decline. Why that's a problem for everyone, not just Japan, and what the Japanese are doing about it. Shizuko is a 76-year-old retiree who lives in the Japanese rural district of Fukui, just north of Kyoto. Her daughter Mai is 55. Shizuko and Mai are pseudonyms that they've asked us to use for privacy because they're talking about their family's finances. They were interviewed by Bloomberg in October.
So Chizuko, she lives in, one of the rural parts of the prefecture, kind of surrounded by a lot of forestry fields.
That's Alice French, who covers the Japanese stock market out of Tokyo.
She's been an active stock investor since she was kind of in her 30s or 40s. So her finances are, important to her. She's built up quite a nice nest egg, or she's a pensioner now. She relies quite heavily on those savings that she's built up.
Like many Japanese families, the pair rarely talk about money. But recently, Chizuko's daughter heard something that pushed her to finally broach the topic of financial planning with her mom.
Mai, the daughter, was telling us that she's kind of been hearing stories recently, one of which came from another relative. One of her relatives, basically, their account was found frozen after they passed away.
Mai said the children of her elderly relatives had no idea the account had been frozen. When it came time for them to handle their fate, they were shocked to discover that they couldn't access their parents' money.
This kind of really triggered an anxiety for Mai. She's thinking, her parents are also kind of getting to that age. They're relying on a pension. And obviously, one never really wants to have to think about your parents kind of becoming unable to handle things themselves. But it is a reality, and it's something that you have to think about.
It's a reality playing out all over the world as populations age and families plan for their futures. In Japan, home to the world's oldest population, there's a greater sense of urgency to that planning. That's because almost a third of the country, around 36 million people, are over the age of 65.
More and more seniors are now reaching that age where they might be experiencing dementia or, these kind of financial risks that come with aging, whether that be kind of rash purchases, sudden selling.
In Japan, these financial risks aren't confined to small pocketbook issues. Seniors with symptoms of cognitive decline now control trillions of dollars in liquid assets. That's cash and investments in stocks, bonds, and other securities. Assets that are at risk of being mismanaged or not being put to use in the economy.
It's almost half of Japan's GDP that falls into this category. And, from health economists to think tanks to lawyers, all of the people that we spoke to are basically saying, as that pile of assets grows, it's going to slow down consumption, it's going to slow down markets, it's going to start impacting economic growth. it's kind of got to a level now where I think it's becoming difficult to ignore, and that's really started to raise alarm bells in Japan, but also across other economies. This is the Big Tech Asia from Bloomberg News. I'm Tom. Every week, we take you inside some of the world's biggest and most powerful economies and the markets, tycoons, and businesses that drive this ever-shifting region. Today on the show, Japan's dementia dilemma. A growing share of the country's financial assets are controlled by the elderly, many at risk of cognitive decline. Why this is a problem for everyone, not just Japan, and what the Japanese are doing about it. In Japan, older people have a lot of financial power. Those over 65 control more than half of the $14 trillion in cash and securities held by Japanese households. But Bloomberg's Alan French says a big chunk of those liquid assets is held by people with dementia and cognitive issues. We understand from data from Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank that it's at around $2 trillion, which is around 315 trillion yen. Now that includes people who have an actual dementia diagnosis, but it also encompasses people with something called mild cognitive impairment. Now this is usually something that comes in kind of in the years before you might get an official dementia diagnosis. You know, sort of from the age of 65 onwards, many older people do start to experience kind of lapses in memory, you know, struggling with judgment and things like that, and just kind of overall cognitive decline. People may develop cognitive decline and dementia.
Now look at this McDonald's here. See this McDonald's here?
And lifestyle choices. But age is the strongest known risk factor.
Have you ever seen a McDonald's like that?
Developing dementia rises after 65. In Japan, the population
Hey, have you ever seen a McDonald's like that?
Is growing fast. And Alice says there are big financial risks associated with what some are calling dementia money. I've heard stories.
Hello, do you hear me?
With dementia or kind of cognitive issues, for example, suddenly donating huge amounts to charities that they love, or, you know, buying into schemes that isn't necessarily scamming, but it's sort of just perhaps what one would describe as ill-advised spending. It can also creep in ways like missed bill payments that obviously affects credit scores. And then kind of on a bigger scale, you know, obviously fraud is a huge problem. We know that in Japan, over 60% of financial scams in 2024 were targeted at over 65, which is pretty staggering. The older population is seen as more vulnerable to this, and of course that's only exacerbated if you have dementia or some, you know, cognitive issues. Financial firms can freeze accounts or place limits or restrictions on them if they identify what they consider to be erratic spending patterns. Research from Tokyo's Keio University shows that about 11% of adult children who take over their elderly parents' finances have found those accounts frozen. In terms of how they're actually implemented these freezes, it really does vary from sort of company to company and from bank to bank. One of the firms that we spoke to said that their staff makes annual visits to clients who are aged over 75 and sort of judges their cognitive abilities. Now, of course, you know, in most of the cases, these sort of securities firms employees, they don't have a medical background and they're sort of having to just use their best judgment. Obviously, one would assume with the client's best interest, you know, at heart, but it is a very difficult judgment call. Money in a frozen account can't be stolen by a scammer or squandered by an older person who might not understand how they're spending. But it can't be accessed by the account holder's children either. And that's a problem. They might need that money to pay for their parents' care. And if they can't access it, they might end up paying for that care themselves. The account can be unfrozen, but that can be a long bureaucratic process. And it doesn't always happen. In some cases, money in those frozen accounts is not claimed at all and ends up in the hands of the government. So that means that a lot of this money ends up dormant, whether it's in cash piles under seniors' mattresses at home or whether it's sitting in bank accounts. Alice says this growing pile of dormant dementia money has implications for Japan's economic growth. Japan is struggling to boost its economy after decades of deflation. The country needs its people to spend that money, not let it sit idle in frozen or dormant bank accounts.
One of the think tanks that I spoke to for the story, for example, had this stat that said that if the kind of dormant money that the over 60s are sitting on, if only 0.2% of that money was actually actively spent, it could boost GDP by 1%. There's an irony here. Some banks are worried that their older customers might be taking too many risks with their money. Some corporations, on the other hand, are concerned that their older investors might not be taking on enough risk. 42% of retail investors in Japan are over 60. Alice says if those people become too risk-averse as they age, that could affect a company's liquidity and even its corporate strategy. If a big chunk of your shareholders, for example, have dementia or are either unable or unwilling to kind of actively use their shareholding rights, that can get in the way of acquisition deals, that can get in the way of things like court governance decisions. She says it's becoming a big issue for family-owned companies. More than 90% of businesses in Japan are family-owned, and over half of companies are run by people aged 60 and older. This all adds up to a looming issue for corporate Japan. For example, if the founder is still the majority shareholder, but maybe has dementia or is just aging and is unable to use those shareholder rights, M&A deals have been collapsing. You can't even do something as simple, for example, as appointing a new board member if you can't get majority shareholder approval. And of course, this is all happening against the backdrop of Japan trying to push forward with corporate governance, with better capital efficiency. We've got an M&A boom that's continuing here and is expected to boom even more in 2026. So this kind of is, I think, a real tangible risk. And that will start to have, I think, a rippling effect across the market and across lots of different asset classes. Japan's population is aging faster than any other in the world, and the number of Japanese people with dementia is growing fast too. That makes the problems that come with having assets controlled by people living with cognitive issues hard to ignore. Bloomberg's Alice French says the Japanese government is taking action. That includes reviewing Japan's guardianship law. Similar to power of attorney in the U.S., the law allows family members to take legal control of a relative's finances if dementia sets in. Only around 5% of dementia sufferers in Japan right now are using that system, and the government would like to boost that. Now, it seems that one of the main reasons that people are a little bit wary of using the system right now is that once you're in it, once you sign on for this guardianship system, you can't get out. That does kind of put off some people who might, for example, change their mind. So the government is looking at the possibility of bringing in that option that you could withdraw at a later stage once you're in it, and they hope that that kind of new level of flexibility will bring more people into the guardianship system. Alice says the committee reviewing changes to the existing law could propose amendments as soon as this year, but it could take years for those changes to take effect. Until then, banks and securities firms are coming up with their own solutions to ensure that their elderly clients' assets are protected. And some older people, alert to their circumstances, are working with them. Shizuko and Mai, who we met at the beginning of this episode, had a frank conversation about Shizuko's financial situation. They decided that Shizuko would make Mai a guardian of a special family support account. This has been the Big Take Asia podcast on Bloomberg Radio. I'm Wan Ha, and I spoke with Bloomberg's Alice French about Japan's dementia dilemma. Bloomberg Radio brings you influential voices on the stories that matter. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon.
Reassure your I just good for her, it's good for you. They know what you need to do.
Morgan Stanley CEO Ted Pick.
Corporate health is excellent. Consumer health at the top end is excellent.
Citadel CEO Ken Griffin.
The real issue in the housing market is the lack of supply.
The names that matter on the news you need. Listen on Bloomberg 1130 or anytime on the Bloomberg Talk podcast.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. A setback in December's pending home sales, deals that were agreed to but hadn't been finalized. They plunged by more than 9% from the month prior, the biggest one-month drop since the start of the pandemic. Sales fell across all regions of the U.S. as well. After a volatile up-and-down trading session, stocks finally ended sharply higher. All the major averages up nearly 1.25% after President Trump said the U.S. and NATO have reached the framework of a deal regarding critical minerals in Greenland. And with that, the Dow today 589 points, the Nasdaq up 271, the S&P up 79. 2025 is a great year for the nation's wealthiest people. The top 1% of U.S. households control nearly a third of the nation's wealth, according to the Fed. That's $55 trillion. The main driver of all that, big gains in the stock market. Home values, which surged during the pandemic, lag behind the rapid growth on Wall Street. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
Hello, I'm Michelle Hussein. Have you listened to the Michelle Hussein Show yet? In this podcast, I speak with people like Elon Musk.
I think I've done enough.
And Shonda Rhimes. This will be a place where every weekend you can count on one essential conversation to help make sense of the world. So please join me, listen and subscribe to the Michelle Hussein Show from Bloomberg Weekend, wherever you get your podcasts.
You said they asked interesting questions.
Stay connected with Bloomberg wherever you are with Bloomberg Podcast. On the Michelle Hussein Show, Senator Jean Shaheen is pressing for answers on Venezuela, Greenland, and Iran. On Our Thoughts, why the tech world is going crazy for Claude Code. And on Everybody's Business, why former U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen thinks we're at a dangerous moment in history. Listen to Bloomberg Podcasts on both Spotify, the Bloomberg Business app, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Bloomberg Podcast. Context changes everything. Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Still a rain shower possible for the evening hours. Otherwise, skies will start to clear out late tonight. Temperatures dropping to the lower to middle 30s. Partly sunny on Thursday, breezy at times, high 40 to 45. Partly cloudy, winds die down Thursday night, low in the middle to upper 20s. Partly sunny, breezy, cooler Friday, high in the lower to middle 30s. I'm Scott Kaplan with your 3-day forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Now, Anshin Accountants and Advisors presents The Tax Minute with Joseph Malloy, tax partner in Anshin's Construction Group.
The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, also known as the OBBBA, will have a significant impact on tax planning strategies. The bill restores and makes permanent 100% bonus depreciation for all eligible purchases made after January 19, 2025. This tax incentive will influence investments in additional machinery and equipment upgrades, providing an immediate tax deduction and helping contractors increase cash flow. At Anshin, a partner-owned firm since 1923, we strategically guide construction companies through the new tax law to help them develop the right strategy and enhance profitability. If you're a construction executive or owner looking to maximize tax savings, let Anshin deliver value where others can't.
For more tax tips from Anshin, visit Anshin.com. That's ANCHIN.com. Anshin Accountants and Advisors, helping you recalculate what's possible.
For 22 years, Bloomberg surveillance has been about conversation and more so our trade partners. How would you agree? President one-sided Trump is your policy on energy dominance is a wonderful strategy. Graph of Renaissance macro research, you define a bubble as if an asset doubles in 2 years. You're able to Bloomberg surveillance weekday mornings at 7. Visit the smartest people on the planet. Listen on Bloomberg 1130. Watch on YouTube or catch us on Bloomberg Original.
Bloomberg Audio Studios, podcast, radio, news.
This is the Futures Spotlight Hour on Bloomberg Radio.
Mr. Bean. This is I only read the headline, and I'm not telling you to read. Shall I read it for you? Mr. Bean has $200 million investment from Tom Lee's Inline. Mr. Beast, if you don't know, we're talking about Jimmy Donaldson, better known as Mr. Beast, who is a YouTube phenomenon. I've also not watched him, but he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's got an empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's got $200 million from Bitmine.
Other content creators more successful ever. Yeah, it's $200 million from Bitmine. To me, the interesting thing is the Bitmine more than the Mr. Beast. But,
Go on.
well, I mean, Mr. Beast is a content creation juggernaut too.
Also, I should point out, it's for a stake in Beast Industries. Not the man, not the Beast himself.
No. He's a little phenomenal. I do wonder a little. He's right at this moment. I don't thought about it very soon. But the Beast Industries succession plan looks like it feels like you're so that's largely an investment. The Beast himself.
Man risk.
Beast risk. No, but like, to me, the thing is like, Bitmine, which is fabulous. Its name is Bitmine Immersion Technologies.
Nice path.
Yes. And the reason it was named this is because 1 year ago, it had been for several years, a Bitcoin mining operation whose differentiating factor was that it immersed its Bitcoin mining rigs in a nice bath.
Amazing.
Yeah. I don't know that a lot about the physics of this. I assume it's not just, instead of dunking computers in water, there's a more complicated thing going on. Immersion is the name because they immersed, they bathed their Bitcoin miners in cool liquid.
That is a really fascinating backstory because now they're better known as being the largest corporate holder of Ether.
Yeah, in the last year, they pivoted away from being a miner to being a treasury company, and they pivoted away from Bitcoin to being an Ethereum company.
Didn't pivot the name.
Didn't pivot the name. Couldn't get after that yet. But so now they're like a treasury company with like kind of $14 billion of mostly Ethereum amounts, dollar cash and some random stuff. And we've talked a lot about crypto treasury companies.
Sure have.
Had a great trade to do 6 months ago, 5 months ago, which is roughly when I did it. You could put $14 billion of Ethereum in a pot and trade to $28 billion, and you think this is great. Now, if you put $14 billion of Ethereum in a pot, you trade to like $13 billion. Not as good a trade. And there are a lot of people who run crypto treasury companies who are kind of looking around and being like, yeah, what are we going to do with this? And one of the answers is $14 billion. You can go make investments, right? So one thing that seems to be happening here is they're like, we have a lot of money, and like just putting the next incremental dollar into Ethereum is not going to move the needle for us. But like Mr. Beast is right there.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I saw this spike alert on my phone, and I just you an email. It's like, it's very fun 2026 headline Mad Libs.
Yeah.
And for a crypto treasury company, you know, in the opening weeks of 2026, maybe not a bad diversification play.
Yeah, crypto treasury companies are going to generate a lot of 2026 Mad Libs because like it's not as simple and obvious and good a trade as it was. And all these people raised billions of dollars to do it. Now, like, you just sell it, right? And the answer is Mr. Beast. There's some other weird answer that ran a platinum and
I do like this line from the article, and it's written by my very good friend Donna Hyrick, so I don't want to dunk on her, but the move highlights the growing convergence between digital finance and the creator economy, as crypto-native firms look to align with brands that dominate Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And I didn't know that this convergence was happening.
So my take on this is that they have a pot of money. Like, the thing they were doing with the money doesn't make sense anymore, so they're doing other things with them. They're like an investing firm. But you could have another view, which is more like what Donna wrote, which is that crypto treasury companies will all say, we're not just an investment company, we're not just a pot of money, we are building a new digital asset infrastructure. They have like one aspect of that is out of like the presentation option of whatever preferred token is, right? And so a lot of that was just like Michael Saylor like putting up presentations and like, you know, himself being an evangelist for Bitcoin. But there are other ways to do that. So one way is you give Mr. Beast $200 million, and maybe in his vast content juggernaut, he says, hey guys, buy Ethereum. And maybe the price of Ethereum goes up, and maybe that makes the price of your pot of Ethereum go up. I don't know.
You forgot Saylor also posting AI-generated images of himself in various inspiring poses.
He's great. I mean,
Say it.
he does it. He's great. He's either great or he does a lot of this sort of thing. But like the people who run the other not strategy crypto treasury companies, you know, they maybe need some help from, you know, the greatest content creator of his generation. I think they call it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want to be too glib about Mr. Beast, because Beast Industries, it oversees basically the YouTube business, which is YouTube's most watched series Beast creator.
We can't be good. Like, we have a podcast that gets a better podcast.
It really does.
It's not even polar, but like, you know.
Also in October, Beast Industries filed a trademark application for Mr. Beast Financial, which lists services such as a cryptocurrency exchange or a cryptocurrency exchange platform, and also consumer lending.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we joke now, but he's going to run our lives. The Jeff Bezos of his time.
Would you borrow money from a beast?
Someone would. Maybe these Gen Alpha people that we're talking about.
I've never felt rolled this whole conversation.
I'm so
You're so much younger than I am.
You know, I keep telling myself I'm going to watch a Mr. Beast YouTube video, and I'm always looking for things to watch on YouTube. I mostly just watch SNL clips, and probably for market research or my job, it'd probably at this point be a good idea to watch a Mr. Beast video.
Yes. If you come away from it thinking, boy, I better buy some t-shirts, I know.
I'll text you.
You know who else is a consumer lender who you wouldn't want to borrow money from?
Tell me.
Every bank?
Gosh.
Every credit card company? I don't know. My impression is that the average interest rate on credit cards is
Super high.
30%, 40%, 70%, 8,000%.
I know someone who wants to change that. His name is Donald J. Trump. He's the president of the United States, and he would like to see those rates capped at 10%. I mean, it's pretty amazing. This isn't a new topic, right? And it's 10%.
It's not like a traditional Republican Party talking point. It's like more of a, you know, Elizabeth Warren introduced legislation sort of point, like a Bernie Sanders kind of vibe.
It's amazing because Bernie Sanders and AOC, I think they were advocating for like 15% originally, like back in 2019.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, so President Trump undercut them at their own game, which is pretty amazing.
Make it 5.
Yeah, why not? The banks, of course, are, it seems like, trying to one-up each other on like doomsday predictions of what this would be.
Yeah.
Like the consensus is that they would basically offer less credit.
Right, like, I think a lot of financial economists have had intuitions around the credit component of credit cards because, like, I pay my balance every month, I get rewards. Credit cards are a way to get points and a convenient payment mechanism, and not a credit mechanism. They're not a credit mechanism. They charge like 20% interest.
Yeah.
And if you want credit, there are other ways to get credit. For some people, that's not true, and it's a standard form of consumer debt. And my assumption is that the rates are so high because, one, the default risk is high, and two, you're sort of getting adversely selected, right? Because the people who carry a balance are the people who are like not going to be able to pay it off. But there is like research, you know, Brian Shearer at Vanderbilt, research on this that is kind of possibly underpinning some of these arguments, saying that the credit card industry is so profitable that it could rein in interest rates, save billions for Americans and small businesses, and still make profits, right? So like there's some fat to be cut here is something that some economists think, although you will not hear that from banks.
No. What you will hear from banks is the CFO of JP Morgan, for example, saying that if it were to happen, it would be very bad for consumers, very bad for the economy, and basically that their card operation would be a business that we would have to significantly change. And I've seen, you know, Bloomberg News basically describe the cards business as like the crown jewel of banks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crown jewel of banks are used against JP Morgan this way, right?
True.
If it's so good, then it could be less good and still, you know, give credit to people. But my intuition is that they are right, and like, in particular, if banks had to cut my credit card interest rate to 10%, that wouldn't affect anyone because I don't pay interest on my credit card. But if they had to cut like the lowest credit score borrowers to 10%, they would probably do a lot less credit provision to those borrowers, right? And there would be, you know, you'd see just the migration to credit cards being a like less available product and for people with higher credit scores.
Yeah, and those people who would be cut out, seems like, again, the consensus would be that they would go to like payday lenders more, who don't exactly offer better rates necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the consumer credit right now is interesting, right? Because there's been a huge rise in buy now, pay later, which is often structured as 0 interest fairly short repayment periods, and loosely speaking, they make their money on like interchange and like swipe fees, right? And so there would be some of that, right? But that would you'd probably get less credit version that way, right? Like you probably couldn't run up as much of a balance on your buy now, pay later product. The other thing that Trump wants is he's also talked about swipe fees, right?
Yes.
Like you use credit cards for both. You can charge less money in swipe fees, and like you can make a lower interest rate work in some form for some time. But if you both have to give up your swipe fees and you have to give up your interest, it's like a much worse product.
Yeah. Build.
I love it.
Build is seizing the moment, unveiling 3 new credit cards with interest rates capped at 10%.
That's not true. Isn't it a 1-year promotional rate?
Yes.
That's really interesting. That is like, Trump is not like credit cards can only charge 10% for the rest of the time. He's like, for the next year until the midterm elections,
Yes.
you have to charge 10% of that. And you know, credit card companies do that all the time. You're listening to the Money Stuff Podcast on Bloomberg Radio. I'm Matt Levy.
I'm Katie Kreisel, and we'll be right back after this break.
Skills for Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars skilled through alternative routes. Hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. Learn why at tandemandproceeding.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
This is New York's only 24-hour source for world markets and breaking business news. Bloomberg 1130. Coming up, the latest market-moving headlines from Bloomberg. First, an update from our partners at CBS News.
CBS News Brief. After meeting with the head of NATO, President Trump says he has formed the framework of a future Arctic deal. Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan.
There is no diplomatic deal for U.S. ownership or control of Greenland. That is still a red line for both Denmark and Greenland.
Minneapolis area elected officials, business owners, and several organizations are calling for a day of action Friday amid ICE immigration crackdowns. Community activist Janae Bates-Amari.
We are calling for this to be a day where no one shops, no one goes to school, no one goes to work. But instead, we take action together in community, in moral reflection, and in moral action.
Fed Governor Lisa Cook's fight to stay on the job may have gotten a boost after arguments before the Supreme Court. CBS's Jan Crawford.
I think the justices were very skeptical, all of them, conservative and liberal, about those sweeping arguments that the president can do this really just because he thinks he has cause to do it.
CBS News Brief, I'm Jennifer Kuiper. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters in New York, I'm Doug Krisner. Let's update top stories and market action. We had a rally in U.S. equities today. That was after President Trump reached a framework future deal on Greenland and for the entire Arctic region. Well, as a result of this framework, Trump said he will refrain from imposing tariffs on goods from those European countries that had opposed his effort to take possession of Greenland. Part of this story includes reporting from the New York Times that the discussions on a framework included a compromise in which Denmark would give the U.S. sovereignty over small pockets of land for the construction of military bases on Greenland. Now, the Trump remarks sparked a rally in U.S. equities. Small caps outperformed. The Russell 2000 today was up 2%. The S&P, NASDAQ, Comp, Dow Industrial Average each higher by roughly 1% today. And we got reaction from Allison McCartney, Managing Director for Wealth Management at UBS Financial Services.
There seems to be, or markets are telling us, that this was a lot of noise. We happen to be doing this, I think, nicely in an earnings season, which is going extremely well, and underpinning the fact that this bull market that began in late 2022, the things that are motivating it and sustaining it have not changed in the last 48 hours.
Allison McCartney from UBS Alignment Partners. We check markets for you throughout the day here on Bloomberg. We've got a rally in Japanese equities with the Nikkei higher by 1.9% at the moment. The yen is steady at 158.30. The dollar steady as well. Meantime, in Hong Kong, Hang Seng better by 0.4%. And on the Chinese mainland, CSI 300 is up more than 0.5%. Also a rally underway underway in Seoul, where the Kospi is ahead 1.9%, and in Sydney, the ASX 200 is up about 0.7%. U.S. Treasury yields in the New York session dropped more so at the long end of the curve. The 10-year was down more than 4 basis points to around 4.24%. We're holding at that level now in the Tokyo session. Global news 24 hours a day. This is Bloomberg.
Miss the day's top headlines? Catch up with Bloomberg Podcast. Bloomberg Intelligence.
This labor economy continues to amaze a lot of investors here.
Bloomberg Balance of Power.
We just heard from the president in the Oval Office.
And Bloomberg Business Week. The mega cap tech earnings deluge. It continues. Listen on Apple CarPlay or Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app and anywhere you get your podcast.
We did see the stock drop following quarterly results.
Bloomberg Podcast. Context changes everything.
Staples presents That Was Easy.
So I'm opening the second location for my coffee shop this year.
I smell trouble brewing.
And I needed to print new menus, loyalty cards, window signage, so I went to Staples.
That'll cost you a latte. Get it?
Actually, I saved $100 on my print order, and everything looks amazing.
So grind my beans and call me impressed.
Staples made it easy.
If your business needs the print, let's go Staples.
That was easy.
Offer valid in store and online at 131 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print-order-tapes.
Hi, Jose Machero here, Head of Portfolio Analytics Research at Bloomberg. Are you looking for a risk model that adapts quickly to today's volatile markets? One capable of providing accurate forecasts and efficient optimized portfolios, all while mitigating those pesky correlations between idiosyncratic and factor returns? If so, look no further than the Bloomberg MAC 3 risk model. Visit bloomberg.com/risk-modeling to learn more.
Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
A disturbance moving out of the Great Lakes leads to increasing cloudiness through the rest of the day. We're 35. That disturbance may set off a storm or flurry tonight. Lows 30 to 35. Temperatures rising a bit overnight. Developing sun tomorrow. Breezy 40 to 45. Partly cloudy 25 to 30 tomorrow night. Partly sunny and only 30 to 35 on Friday. I'm Rob Carolyn with your 3-day forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Bloomberg Radio, on demand, and in your podcast feed.
On the latest edition of the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast, Julian Emmanuel, Evercore ISI.
A lot has been thrown at a market that is being driven by the secular growth and productivity bump potential of AI. But again, we're in the 4th year of this bull market. It should be more volatile. And our view was the aberration was there was too much complacency to start the first 2 weeks of the year. That's over.
I'm looking at Standard & Poor's 500, and coming off the debacle last April, we legged up one leg, 2 legs, and then off we went to the races. Do you see the same thing this time? That we've got Greenland angst? Somehow it will get solved, and we'll have a multiple leg up and a reaffirmation of a bull market?
We think it's going to take a little more patience this time. So if you think about it, one of the extraordinary things is that, for instance, the February to April leg down last year happened so quickly that unless you were an active manager at a hedge fund where the risk manager tapped you on the shoulder and said, lighten up, you did nothing because it happened too quickly. And in fact, the public was a buyer the whole way down. We think the way this year unfolds, we're going to have, this is the first bout of what we think is higher volatility. There will be multiple bouts. And the key here is going to be patience and sticking to your knitting and having the cash to deploy, down 5 and down 10, which we think we might see multiple times on the way to 77.50 by year end.
Hear the full conversation on the latest edition of the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Plus, listen anytime on the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Elizabeth Holmes, disgraced founder of the blood testing startup Theranos, has formally asked President Trump to release her from prison, with nearly 6 years left to serve on an 11-year fraud conviction sentence. If Trump commutes her, she would still have to pay her defrauded investors $452 million in restitution. President Trump today backpedaling on threats to take Greenland by force and to hit European allies who oppose his plans with punishing new tariffs. after claiming the U.S. late today reached a, quote, framework of a future deal on critical minerals in Greenland. Without detailing any specifics, Wall Street rose sharply higher. After a volatile up-and-down trading session, all the major averages nearly 1.25% higher at the close. The Dow today up 589. The Nasdaq up 271. The S&P shot up 79. And because of a weaker U.S. dollar, gold for the first time today topping $4,800 an ounce. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds. Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Podcast Spotlight Hour on Bloomberg Radio.
I'm Matt Levine.
And I'm Katie Greifeld.
And you're listening to the Money Step Podcast on Bloomberg Radio. If banks had to cut my credit card interest rate to 10%, that wouldn't affect anyone because I don't pay interest on my credit card.
Mm-hmm.
But if they had to cut like the lowest credit score borrowers to 10%, they would probably do a lot less credit provision to those borrowers, right? And there would be, you'd see just a migration to credit cards being a less available product and for people with higher credit scores.
Yeah, and those people who would be cut out, seems like, again, the consensus would be that they would go to like payday lenders more, who don't exactly offer better rates necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the consumer credit right now is interesting, right? Because there's been a huge rise in buy now, pay later, which is often structured as zero interest, fairly short repayment periods, and loosely speaking, they make their money on like interchange, on like swipe fees, right? And so there would be some of that, right? But that would you'd probably get less credit provision that way, right? Like you probably couldn't run up as much of a balance on your buy now, pay later product. The other thing that Trump wants is to, he's also talked about swipe fees, right? Like you squeeze credit cards from both ends, right? And like if you're a credit card company and you can charge a lot of money in swipe fees, then like you can make a lower interest rate work in some form for some time. But if you both have to give up your swipe fees and you have to give up your interest, it's like a much worse product.
Yeah. I am really interested to see what happens over the next couple days with this, because we're recording this on January 15th.
I'll tell you what's going to happen in the next couple of days.
Okay.
Well, no, I shouldn't say. Generally, I do nothing, but things are crazy now, so maybe.
Well, specifically, I'm referring to January 20th.
Oh, yes. That's when if you don't stop charging more than 10% interest, you'll be in violation of the law.
The law?
The law. What law?
That's what I would like to know, and that's what I was going to ask you.
Secret law in Donald Trump's head.
Well, apparently a lot of these banks are going to be in violation of it.
It does seem that way.
You know who won't?
Bilt. I love it.
Bilt is seizing the moment, unveiling 3 new credit cards with interest rates capped at 10%.
That's not true, right? Isn't it a 1-year promotional rate?
Yes.
That's really interesting about this. Like, Trump is not like credit cards can only charge 10% for the rest of the time. He's like, for the next year until the midterm elections, you have to charge 10% or less. And credit card companies do that all the time. All the time they offer like 0% introductory rates, right? Like, you can have some sort of promotional program that charges 10% or less to attract customers, right? And then, eventually jack it up to 30%. But what a great time to have a promotional program. But these promotional programs, you often see people being 0% introductory APR for the first 6 months. Right? They'll do 10%, no problem. 10% introductory rate for 1 year.
And on new purchases.
Right. It's a great, combination of politics and marketing.
Yeah, I'm trying to find all the different asterisks here. But yeah, it is great promotion. And I mean, we haven't really seen anyone else, or at least not in a big splashy way like this, sort of take advantage of this moment. It's mostly been pushback from the bank.
Yeah, because if you're a bank with a long-standing portfolio, and you're 10% introductory rate on our new card, it's a little bit, people will notice that you're mostly not charging them.
Right.
Bilt, I think, has
some advantages in the, like, my impression is like they have fairly high credit quality and like there's a pay or rent with a credit card thing. Like I think they have probably different economics than other banks.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier in person, that we've talked about Built on this podcast before, and I forget.
Believe you when you told me that.
I forget what the specific. We've definitely talked about it on this podcast, but yeah, they have a really interesting model. But yeah.
I asked you how it worked and you didn't know. I don't frankly know either, but like my impression is that like you can't normally put your rent on your credit card because like that'll cost your landlord, you know, 3% interchange fee. They're built negotiated with landlords to make them like build so much that they can charge rent.
And now mortgages.
And now
you
mortgages.
can pay for your mortgage with.
Is that like, you know, the 20% interest on balances is not the important part of the business and they can go, I mean, like 10%.
Yeah.
There you go, Donald Trump.
Yeah. The count's on. You know, as of right now, we're 5 days away from all those
I still think the answer to what will happen on January 20th is nothing. But what if they're all arrested?
Arrested?
Yeah, they're violating the law. What law? Nobody knows.
We'd have an emergency podcast.
I would not have an emergency podcast. I would go into hiding.
Is there anything else to say about this specific topic?
I'm sure there's a lot of things. My impression is that people on financial television and frankly in financial journalism have been talking about it pretty nonstop.
You know what's amazing?
I read this week about this lovely, well, terrible insider trading case. These like 3 brothers are accused of doing all sorts of insider trading. I think they're like healthcare people. Like I think they worked in healthcare banking, or at least one of them did. And they do a lot of trading in healthcare stocks and allegedly insider trading and market manipulation in healthcare stocks. And some of the accusations are wild. Like the thing that's the most interesting to me is like, you know, I love insider trading.
Yeah.
And like
doing it.
So like the main thing they're accused of doing is like just standard stuff, right? They had a friend who they like one guy had worked with him, and he was a fairly junior banker at Lazard, a healthcare banker, and so he had some information about Lazard's healthcare deal flow, and he would just tell his buddy allegedly, hey, you know, this deal is coming, and the buddy would allegedly trade options and made like $40 million, right? Or like the ring of them made $40 million. And in exchange for this, the brother gave the banker gifts, including a Rolex watch, help in drafting slides for a PowerPoint presentation that he was preparing as part of his job at Lazard, which is like really, he's facing up to 25 years in prison or whatever. And like,
I want to see the PowerPoint. It's probably a heck of a PowerPoint.
It can only be so good.
I mean,
the
that's what you say now.
No, like if you're doing your PowerPoint for your banking job at Lazard, like the floor is high, it has to be good, but the ceiling is low. Like it can't be that good. It also gave him advice and assistance in his search for a new investment banking position, which did not work out well because it's hard to investment banking job once you're charged with
I feel like the most valuable piece of advice probably would have been stop insider trading.
Yes, the one piece of advice he could not provide in those circumstances, but yes. But so that's most of what they did. Most of like the money that they're accused of making, but like other wild stuff, including insider trading on drug trials, right? So like if you have a biotech company, it's like trialing a cancer drug. If the results are good, the stock will go up. If the results are bad, the stock will go down. And so they allegedly set up fake email addresses for fake doctors and would email the people doing the trial to be like, I have a cancer patient who would like to be part of the trial. And then be like, okay. And then he'd be like, can you tell me how it's going so that I know whether I should put my cancer patient into the trial? And they allegedly get information that was useful for a hypothetical doctor, but also useful for an investor, right? Because if it's like, oh, the trial's going very well, then you can buy call options on the stock. And so they allegedly did that. They got some information. Apparently it wasn't like market moving enough, is my impression, because instead of using that information to trade options, they also like made up fake information saying the trial was going really well. And then instead of like putting out a fake press release or just like talking about it on Twitter, they like very subtly created like fake profiles on cancer support sites and like leaked it in a way that didn't seem like they were hyping a stock, but that made it seem like it was like legitimate medical information. And then they took that and leaked it on Twitter and like the stock went. They didn't make a lot of money on this. This is very convoluted.
They made like 250.
Yeah, like $40 million and just straightforwardly being told about mergers, right? So
that's true.
So like, that's a better deal. But this was a very sophisticated, interesting form of insider trading, but like it didn't work as well as the regular form of insider trading.
It seems more evil.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Given that we're talking about, like, breast cancer drug trials.
Right. It's gross. But also, like, you could imagine the upshot of this being people who run biotech companies and doctors who run drug trials thinking, oh no, we have to worry about insider trading by the doctors and patients in this trial, and sort of having more safeguards to prevent that in a way that is bad for cancer patients, but that, like, you know, prevents this sort of insider trade, right? It's like, if you're a cancer patient and you go to a drug trial, like, nobody's like, oh, you better sign this piece of paper saying insider trading on it. It's not that important.
You're like, that is so far from
exactly.
what I'm
It's
thinking
not
about.
far from these guys.
Yeah.
Ideas. And so now it's like you sort of made a little joke on drug, and it worked really well in your case. And then you bought call options on that. Would that be insider trading? And cancer sort of depends on what you find, I think.
Yeah.
But also, like, no one's gonna come after you. Like, come on. But like, yeah, these guys, it's kind of really good.
Well, in the sense, you did ask the popular question that, you know, say you were on a Boeing plane that was going down, and
I've read about that.
you bought.
Like a big Reddit
Well,
thing.
what was the answer? Like,
I
is
think
it
that's fun.
insider?
Yeah, so this is like a class. This is like a Reddit thing that people sent me a lot when it was first posted, and then periodically sent me every month since. But there was a Boeing plane where, like, the door popped off in midair, and it was pretty harrowing for the people on the plane. And someone posted on Reddit, if I were on that plane, could I have bought put options on Boeing? Would that be insider trading? And my answer is not legal advice. Is no, it's fine. Like, it's, you know, it's like you're using a product, right? Like, it's like if you have an iPhone and, like, you don't think it works very well, you can sell Apple stock. And if you think it works great, you can buy Apple stock. Like, this is normal people interact with the stock market. Is like you experience the company's products or services, and then you get on it.
I guess if, like, you're on that plane and you've called all your loved ones, everyone you would want to, and you have some extra time, that it's not unreasonable that you would think to buy puts.
I feel like the framing of the question in Reddit suggests that, like, you don't have that many loved ones.
Oh,
like,
God.
you're kind of a degen. But yeah, sure.
Yeah. I like to make everything personal.
Right. I would not, I think, have the presence of mind to buy puts on Boeing.
No.
I guess the point is, like, the plane lands, maybe. But anyway, the point is, I think it's fine. But it's not legal, Lucas. Thanks for listening to the Money Stuff Podcast on Bloomberg Radio. I'm Matt Levy.
And I'm Katie Greifeld. You can find Money Stuff, the podcast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
From the financial capital of the world, 20 minutes a day at Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is WBBR New York, Bloomberg 1130. Coming up, the latest market-moving headlines from Bloomberg. First, an update from our partners at CBS News. This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting. I'm Michael Toscano. A jury has just released its verdict for Adrian Gonzalez, the former Uvalde, Texas school police officer charged with child endangerment and abandonment in the school shooting that killed 19 students. Two teachers we, the jury, find defendant Adrian Gonzalez not guilty. Prosecutors accused Gonzalez of abandoning his training and not trying to stop the shooter. Correspondent Margaret Brennan reports on potential threats for Valley Green at President Trump's meeting with the head of NATO.
The President Trump is signaling that he's willing to consider a middle ground proposal for NATO. Diplomatic sources tell me there is a framework that will ramp up security on Greenland beyond the existing 1951 U.S. agreement. That's back when the U.S. had multiple military bases there.
Reports on the town before that storm. Chicago got a break. But temperatures could feel like negative 40 degrees here by the end of the week. Problem if you have to be inside. Today I got it's not too bad. It's this bad. 29 until just the another significant winter
is shaping up to hit the southern plains and move across the south, heading into the weekend. CBS's Camilo Monteo Galvez tells us ICE officers are now being told they can enter homes with administrative warrants. This is people with deportation, that is the Constitution as long as interpreted. Meaning that any law enforcement agency is being property without judicial warrant. I would argue that at least in the immigration context, still indicates that people ordered deported by an immigration judge or another court doesn't likely to trigger significantly damages. Sitting down the chairman of JP Morgan credit card industries, President Trump. South Carolina's measles operation of Josiah slowing 646 cases out of where the 400 have been coming since January 3rd. State epidemiologist Dr. Linda Bell. Maybe a thing for certainly before individuals for if seeing a change in protective behaviors. This is CBS News. Take control of your financial life and follow and listen to Money Talk. Free on CBS or wherever you get your podcast. Is she really worth holding out to that time period? Did you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%. And there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50. Half hour so the Islanders take on the Seattle. Downtown. Here's Showman on the Knicks logo. Left side pass Powell, censored by Brunson. Powell around the Claxton Street cookie, but also it's a tremendous cold coming in behind it. Southern states may see days of single-digit temperatures with wind chills as low as 10 below zero. By Sunday, forecasts show the system moving into the northeast and dropping as much as 2 feet of snow in some places. The U.S. stock market bounced back today from its worst day since October yesterday. This is NPR. Commuter rail service in Catalonia, Spain was suspended today after a Barcelona train crash killed one person and injured 37 others. It follows a Spanish railway disaster over the weekend that killed 43. 3 days of national mourning are underway as officials continue their investigations. A top CDC official said the loss of measles elimination status would not be significant for the U.S. NPR's Maria Godoy reports the comments from the agency's top deputy director come as the U.S. is experiencing measles cases at levels not seen in decades.
During a press call Tuesday, Dr. Ralph Abraham told reporters that the loss of measles elimination status would, quote, not really be significant.
It was just the cost of doing business with our borders, getting somewhat worse. Global and international travel.
But other public health experts disagree, saying measles elimination status, which is granted to countries that have not had ongoing chains of transmission for more than a year, was a hard-won public health victory for the U.S. as it has since 2000. They say it's lost signal a public health infrastructure that's failing to protect Americans from preventable disease. Maria Godoy, NPR News.
Players from English soccer team Manchester City will refund ticket costs for Hallelujah. Amen.
For late Friday. That's trade for White Sox outfielder Luis Robert Jr. days after signing free agent infielder Bo Bichette. The Yankees re-signed Kirby Bellinger to a 5-year deal.
Warm weather channel forecast confidence is increasing that we could have some significant winter weather accumulate the New York Times early Sunday morning and then lasting into early Monday at times. Could be some measurable snowfall. It's going to be a lot colder as we get into the weekend too. Tonight, just some clouds, a low of 33. Mostly sunny Thursday, pretty quiet for now. 43 the high. Then that winter weather potential for the back half of the weekend. I'm meteorologist Barton Deville from the Weather Channel on 710 WOR.
Next news at 9:30, bulletins at once. With Menzie in the morning, 6 till 10. I'm Andrew Whitman on 710 WOR. Hey, fuck the crock the lyric with Jimmy Baylor.
Oh, hot damn, we are fired up on a big Wednesday episode of Fox Most America Jimmy Baylor. To put out the raging dumpster fire we call politics in this country. We're doing it with some heavy-duty backup that I will bring on here in a second as Donald Trump makes his way over to Cabo to recap the highlights of his speech to the assembled media and world leaders. You're about to hear the greatest speech you've ever heard. We'll also get you up to speed on the ongoing cat fight we call Minneapolis. And the phone number, if you want to weigh in on this, is 888-788-9910. The rules are the same every day on this show. You're all welcome. I don't care how you vote. It doesn't matter what you identify as or what you're sexually attracted to. Because I'm a 48-year-old man who plays video games. And nobody knows that better than today's co-host for the next 3 hours, Lincoln Fela on the show. What's up, Lincoln? Are you pumped up for this? Very pumped up. So just so everybody understands, okay, today's show's going to run a little bit differently. The Link Band, the show, you'll be taking midterms, correct? Yeah. But Lincoln is out of school because you're a senior. You don't